Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. Treasures. At this point, we may already be sick of them. They started out as a fun novelty in Ixalan block and a great way to introduce some new color fixing and ramp to colors that needed it, but it very quickly got out of control. To the point where you can now pick any of the colors and build a treasures deck out of it. In fact, I featured a $50 treasures deck here on the channel last year, linked up top, featuring the uncommon commander Jolene, Reclusive Painter. With the release of Streets of New Capenna though, it's almost impossible to do a budget treasures deck. All of the staple pieces have really shot up in price, to the point where the cost of a Dockside Extortionist on its own could cover more than an entire budget deck built last year. So let's go all out. Chat and I sat down to build a no-limit treasures deck featuring Jolene, the Plunder Queen. If we're going with treasures, we're gonna make it rain. If you want to join me and brew these decks live, come watch me stream, and keep an eye on my socials for when you can help me build these decks each week. When I saw Jolene the Plunder Queen, I immediately fell in love. This red and green human warrior is an exclusive to the New Capenna Commander Precons, and reminds me a lot of Edric, Spymaster of Trest. She reads, whenever a player attacks one or more of your opponents, that attacking player creates a treasure token. If that's not cool enough, she also says if you would create one or more treasure tokens, instead create those tokens +1. And sacrifice 5 treasures, put 5 +1/+1 counters on Jolene, all on a svelte 2/2 body. So you can see why I immediately drew a parallel to Edric Spymaster of Trest. Jolene rewards opponents for attacking anyone but you with a shiny dollar. She provides great incentive to not focus you. In this case, we aren't giving opponents multiple cards, but also it's an attack trigger, and it doesn't matter how many creatures are attacking your opponents. They could send one creature at someone else and the rest of them at you and still make that money. So it's not a perfect system, which is why they also found it fit to staple Zorn's ability onto Jolene, adding an extra treasure whenever you make treasures. So while your opponents make 1 treasure a turn attacking each other, you make 2, instantly breaking the symmetry. But that static ability works for anything that makes treasures. So you see where I'm going with this. The more abilities that make us treasures, the nuttier this gets. Then, of course, when we've saved up enough bank, Jolene turns that money into muscles, I guess, and goes in swinging for a ton of damage. So if we're going for broke, and making a treasures deck with all the glitz and glam of a music video, let's really aim for the top. We want to include more ways to enable attack triggers safely, just about everything that makes treasures, and ways to allow Jolene to swing for lethal commander damage later in the game. Before I get into the card breakdown, you can follow along by viewing the deck list. Just follow the link in the description to my sponsor, Moxfield. Moxfield is the best deck building platform in the world, allowing me to craft decks like this live thanks to their powerful search tools. They also let me sort decks by mana value, or in this case, dollar value, so we can see just how rich our tastes are. Be sure to follow my Moxfield profile to stay updated on all of the decks I build as I build them. Up first are the best of the best token generators. I'm talking Dockside Extortionist, Old Gnawbone, and Goldspan Dragon just to begin with. These 3 creatures alone are almost $150 together at the time of recording, and for good reason. If we're making treasures and everything in our deck cares about treasures, then these guys do it all. Make a ton of treasures, make treasures repeatedly, and make our treasures go further. All gold standards. Let's not forget to mention Bootlegger Stash. Brand new from Streets of New Capenna, this was pre-ordering for over $30, but has fallen to just about $20. Still expensive, but for good reason. This is the most reliable long-term token generator we could possibly want. In fact, we've worked to build around it too, including Seedborn Muse and Wilderness Reclamation, allowing us to use our lands to make treasures twice or on everyone's turn. And since each activation of a land to make a treasure is a single trigger, Jolene makes us 2 treasures per land. Bonus! From here, our next big money pieces are our value multipliers. I'm talking Parallel Lives and Doubling Season, each getting us twice the treasures we generate, and with these 2 cards alone, adding another $150 to the price of the deck. Yikes! Can we build this deck on an installment plan? It's no wonder they're expensive though. They're 2 seldom reprinted, versatile powerhouses in our format. We also have the new Reign of Riches in the deck, which both generates treasures when it enters the battlefield and gives us extra value when we cast our first spell using treasures each turn through cascading. I have this card on my top 5 of the set, linked up top, and since I released that short, it's only climbed in price up to $15. Getting us free spells? That's free real estate. Our other treasure value multipliers aren't new by any means, but are certainly crucial to the deck. Zorn, which is basically redundancy for a third of Jolene, earns a spot. Zorn and Jolene work hand in hand to make 3 treasures for every 1 we would normally generate. That stonks. Speaking of 3 times as many, my good friend Academy Manufactor is a no-brainer in this list, turning every treasure we generate into a food and a clue as well, just extending the value from every aspect of this deck, and also works to earn interest over time. Now that we're making it rain, let's close out the game by making it easier to attack, both to trigger Jolene and with a pumped up Jolene too. Including small flyers like Birds of Paradise, Gilded Goose, and Ornithopter of Paradise not only lets us ramp, but allows us to trigger Jolene once we shift to treasures, being the real payoff. Remember that Jolene's treasure generating trigger is on attack, so we don't need to deal any damage. Attacking with a 0 power evasive creature earns us the big bucks. And if we're going to be attacking with our commander, we need to do it safely. Vigor and Dolem Gate both allow our non-evasive commander to smash in harmlessly, while adding another $25 to the deck's value across just these 2 cards. But on the cheaper side of things, we've got Kenra Charioteer and Brawn, both just pennies, but helping give Jolene trample so she can extract a toll from our opponent's faces. Let's not forget Orin Frostfang, giving our attackers death touch, but also serving as one of the best draw engines in the deck. Drawing a card for each creature that connects is worth this card's $10 price tag. Also adding to the deck's total is Berserk. This almost $30 instant helps us punch in for big damage at the cost of sacrificing the target creature at end of turn. That's a pretty big drawback that we might also use as removal on an opponent's creature, but we can mitigate it if we don't end the turn. Like with an Aggravated Assault. This enchantment rings in at $40 on its own and helps us nearly infinite loop. As long as we can make 5 treasures per attack through our various means of production, we can keep untapping and attacking over and over. An old Gnawbone in play with an Aggravated Assault is basically game over. The final tally for our deck is almost $1,700 at time of recording. Our mana base is adding an insane $700 to that total too, thanks to Taiga, Wooded Foothills, and Boseiju. Not to mention nice to have expensive pieces like a Wheel of Fortune, perfect for creating a fortune in this deck, adding a total of $360 alone. Just imagine how expensive this deck would be if we went with foils as well. I'm sure we could double its price easily. Nothing but the finest for Jolene the Plunder Queen. Let me know what you think of this deck in the comments below, and let's work together to make it rain treasures on our opponents. As always folks, good luck and have fun.